day compared to the last couple of
Oh my God, are you kidding?
weeks.
It's freezing here and
I mean, it's
fast and miserable.
Oh gosh, I can see the sky and it's blue outside.
My sky's grey.
Oh. No, it was actually really nice. I mean, it was cold, but it was a really nice walk that I just did because
I believe
it wasn't chucking down.
When it's cold and it's blue sky, it's fresh.
Yeah, it was fresh. It was really fresh.
Yeah. When it's grey sky and drizzly and cold,
Shit.
it's fucking miserable.
Shit, innit?
Yeah, shit. How's everyone been? How have you been?
Been all right.
Good.
Yep. Nothing to report.
Okay. Well, all right. Random plan. Go.
Oh, you know what? Every single time I forget that I need a random plan.
Right. Well, in that case, should we do one together?
But, all right.
I
don't know what you mean.
Whatevs.
Whatever, you do what you want to do.
Right. On the back of one of your recent posts, which I found highly amusing, I thought most of our listeners are not from this part of the world.
No.
And I don't think we've got many listeners that are Essex.
No.
Essex and London. So I was thinking, I will tell you all some Essexisms, and Sarah, you can say what you think they mean.
Oh, I know what post you mean now. That was honestly so hilarious.
It's so good, isn't it? So the first one, how much is it?
How much is it?
How much is it?
How much is it?
Yes, that is when someone is requesting the price of an item.
Yeah.
How much is it?
How much is it then? God, that looks nice. How much is that?
All right. So leading on, a man.
What's the amount?
Well done.
Yeah.
2 for 2.
What's the amount of that?
What about?
How much is it? What's the amount?
What's the amount? How much is it? What made me laugh is how much is it? It's spelled ALMA, as in Alma, and then
How much?
CHIZZIT. How much is it? How much is it? An amount is AMANT. Amount. What's the amount? Yeah. What about quarter panda?
Quarter panda. You don't realise that that's actually not correct, is it? Quarter panda.
Quarter panda.
And that everybody knows what quarter panda is.
CORTA, and then the next word, panda. PANDA.
Yeah. Quarter panda and cheese.
Yeah. So it's a large hamburger.
How much is that quarter panda?
How much is it? What's the amount of a quarter panda?
What's the amount?
I know, we don't use English well at all, do we?
For God's sake, no.
Oh. What about eye eels?
Yeah. Can't walk in them eye eels. What are you on about?
What about an easy one? Think.
Yeah. Don't think about that.
Don't think about it. Just don't think about it. Oh, they're so funny, innit? What about, here's the last one. Tan.
Oh, just pop it to tan?
Yeah.
Just pop it to tan for a quarter panda. I don't know how much it is, though.
How much is it? What's the amount? Going in my trousers, isn't I?
Walk down to town in my high heels. Get a quarter panda.
Don't forget your trousers.
I'm sure we've all done that in Essex. Walked into town in my high heels to get a quarter panda at midnight.
Oh yeah, I don't know about me with high heels, but
no, I've never. I'm not.
I do wear my trousers, and I do buy a lot of chocolate.
Yeah.
See, that was another thing that people didn't get. Chocolate. It's chocolate, isn't it? Chocolate.
Well, I say chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Is that because you moved out of Essex?
Yeah, posh now.
Yeah.
I keep saying things, and Josie goes, "Cool, that was Norfolk."
And you're
I was
like,
like,
oh,
God, that fucking tractor up there. Gosh, I got to go round another tractor.
tractor. Oh, fun and games. All right. Well, we'll have that as our random blam. Random blam done.
A little Essex dictionary for everybody.
Yeah. Why not? Right. Well, today's episode is not a particularly nice one. If you've all seen the title of it, you will more than likely recognise the case, but it does come with a trigger warning and it contains details and descriptions of the murder of children. So,
I
sorry
haven't
about
even seen
that.
the title of it.
I
I don't know
know.
what this is.
Well, I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Oh, okay, all right.
Let's roll our music. Morning.
Morning.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Hope you're all well.
I never actually considered that some people don't listen to this in the morning. Like 7 o'clock at night driving home and we go, morning.
Oh, yeah. Evening.
Evening.
Or afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's crack on. It's a little bit of a this is probably going to put everyone in a bit of a somber mood. It's a high profile case, so I'm sure there'll be multiple people that will have opinions on it and probably going to want to tell me that I'm wrong in certain bits, but I have done a lot of research on this, so whatever.
Yeah, you get that a lot, didn't you? I always seem
I
to.
do. Always mine.
Only you, yeah, not me.
Yeah, so if you could all write in and make some sort of complaint about Sarah's, that'd be great. Don't make me the only one. Yeah, I had quite a bit of controversy on JonBenet and Kendrick Johnson in particular. That seemed to enrage everyone.
That, yeah, they really did. I think that just goes to show how controversial they are. I actually feel like I'm going to get some sort of backlash on the Amityville because there are so many varying information, so much varying information and sources, and that's why it's so perplexing and so controversial because nobody knows what happened to JonBenet, nobody knows what happened to Kendrick, and nobody knows what happened in the Amityville.
Yeah.
So
no, that's true.
Come at us with your opinions.
Oh God.
Come at us with your facts.
Don't. I'm having a bad time lately. Come cover me. Don't want it. No. I mean, it's the same with this, and it's rightly said, you know, these cases are perplexing because no one really knows what happened. If I get a few details wrong, like the colour of someone's eyes and things like that, does it really matter? I don't think so. So today's case is the Family Annihilator, Chris Watts.
Oh
no!
Oh no! God! Oh, this one's so sad.
So sad. I know.
Oh gosh! Please don't play the clip. I know exactly what you're gonna play.
Yeah, I've got several clips, but
oh no!
Yeah,
this one.
It's very, very well known. I think just because it was so brutal and so evil.
Oh gosh!
That the whole world just stopped and kind of went, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, literally. What the actual shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
I'm not going to go too much into what happens with the children, but obviously I will be touching on it. So as I said before, there is a trigger warning with this. If you're familiar with the case and you think, oh, I don't want to hear about it again, I understand. I will try and do a bit of an easier, fluffier, less tragic case next time.
Yeah. Can I put my hand up and say I don't really want to hear about this one?
You cannot, actually.
What happens if I don't?
No. Well, I mean, technically you could unplug your headphones, but I mean, if I go,
Or
don't
just
you
nod
think,
along.
periodically, I'm not going to give it away visually, but I'll just go, don't you think, Sarah? And then I'll wait. And if you're not listening, you'll just be like that. Yeah.
All right, I'll listen.
Okay. So, Shanann Watts, or Shanann Watts, born as Shanann Catherine Rusick on 10th of January 1984. She grew up in Moorville, North Carolina. She was the daughter of Frank and Sandra Rusick, and she had a brother named Frankie Rusick, who she was very, very close with, and they were properly like best buddies. Shanann had a huge presence on social media. She posted regularly. Most of the time, she would make multiple posts each day. There's loads and loads and loads of her videos still online. She would speak about her family life, how much she loved her husband. She boasted, quite rightly, about her perfect family life. By all accounts, Shanann was a big personality, and people that knew her said that she was very loud, very bubbly, very social. In 2018, on World Lupus Day, Shanann went online to speak publicly about dealing with lupus. She had discovered that she had lupus around 10 years earlier. Although apparently she was never officially diagnosed with lupus or ever had any treatment for it. So for those of us that are unfamiliar with lupus, it is a condition that affects your immune system, and it can cause problems with your skin, your joints, kidneys, and other organs. She said that she felt very achy all the time. Her body just really physically hurt her. And she went and had loads and loads of tests at a hospital. And yeah, it's a bit conflicting because she did go and she did have all these tests. She had a lot of colonoscopies and things like that. But sources say that she was never officially diagnosed with lupus. In 2010, Shanann met Chris Watts. Now, Shanann says that she wasn't into Chris at all.
After every time you say Chris, can I just whisper into the microphone? Bastard.
Yeah. Everyone else is thinking it.
Bastard.
Bastard. Yeah.
I think they're probably thinking of a stronger word.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can think of a lot of words to describe Chris Watts. Bastard. But yeah, she wasn't into him as much as she tried to push him away. He just kept coming back. Bastard. She tried everything she could to discourage him. She would cancel dates that they'd planned, and when all of that failed to get him to bugger off, she decided to then start taking him to her hospital appointments. So he would go with her to like colonoscopies and things like that. Like the worst kind of things that that you can think of as a date.
I've just got to take a poo sample. Do you want to come with
me? Yeah. Hold this a minute, and I'll just get the pot. Exactly. But that still didn't put him off. He was still keener than ever, and eventually she fell head over heels in love with him. And in 2012, the couple married in Mecklenburg County. Sorry if I got that name wrong, but it's in North Carolina. They eventually moved. You're still giggling about the phone.
I'll go and get the pot.
Hold that a minute. Hang on, where's that pot?
I've just been silently laughing into the microphone. I couldn't control myself. I'm really sorry. Hold this. I'll go and get the pot.
I'll have something that will wipe the smile off your face in a minute.
This is my coping mechanism because I know what's going to come, so I've got the giggles, which is completely unacceptable.
So inappropriate.
So inappropriate, but I know what's coming. I'll go get the pot.
They eventually moved to Frederick, Colorado, where they started a family, and they had 2 daughters, Bella and Celeste, who was referred to as Cece. She was described by those who knew her as a loving and devoted mother who cherished her role as a parent. I've tried to describe their family life over and over the best I can to give you guys a picture of what their family looked like, or at least what it looked like to the world of social media and the internet. I deleted it, rewrote it, deleted it, rewrote it. And what I've decided to do with this episode is I've decided to share some of the videos and audio with you. So there are quite a lot of audio and video clips coming up. So to give you guys an image of sort of what their family was like, I am going to roll the first clip.
And then I met Chris. I got a friend request from Chris on Facebook, and I was like, oh, what the heck? I'm never going to meet him. Except, well, one thing led to another, and 8 years later, we have 2 kids. We live in Colorado, and he's the best thing that has ever happened to me. And because of my health challenges, because I got so sick, I let him in. And he only knew me at that time. He knew me at my worst, and he accepted me. And, you know, through your vows, like through sickness and everything, he's been there. He was the one that let me lay on him and fall asleep for 3.5 hours on his lap while he had to pee. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me.
So as you guys can see and hear, Chris appeared to the whole world through Shanann's social media to be the devoted husband, loving father, all-round good guy. And it turns out that he was not such a good guy. In fact, he was the very definition of the devil. I've just played you a clip from Shanann. I've decided to play this clip a bit earlier in the episode because it's just tragic. When you know, for those of you that are listening that know what happens, it's going to be even more sad for you guys and for us that know what happens eventually. But so I'm just going to play the second clip, and this is a clip from from Bella, who's 4 years old, and yeah, I'll play you that.
My daddy is a hero. He helps me grow up strong. He helped me snuggle too. He reads me books. He ties my shoes. If you're a hero, blue and blue, my daddy, I love you.
Gosh, that's adorable.
Oh, that's so cute, isn't it? I think it kind of feels even worse for me because she's saying, Daddy, you're my hero. Like he's someone to look up to, and that's how they really felt, and which makes it just all that much sadder and difficult. But in May or June, I think probably June, the different sources, some say May, some say June, in 2018, Shanann donned a t-shirt with the words, "Oops, we did it again," and wore it in a video that she recorded for the big reveal for Chris about their third pregnancy. And I'm going to play you that one now as well.
We did it again. I like that shirt. Really?
Really?
That's awesome. So pink means...
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I don't know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
So, as you guys heard in the video, Chris seems elated and says, "That's awesome. Wow. I love that shirt." You know, he seems really pleased, but we later find out that that actually wasn't the case at all. You see, what Shanann and the children didn't know was that Chris was actually having an affair. In June 2018, Chris met a woman called Nicole Kessinger. Chris and Nicole met at work where they both worked for the same company. It was an oil company called Anadarko Petroleum. Apparently, Chris had informed Nicole that although he still lived in the family home with his two lovely daughters, that he and Shanann were actually separated and getting ready to complete their divorce. I'm going to leave this affair here now because I'm coming back to Nicole, because there's a whole load about Nicole that I never knew, and I found out about it this time. And then for me, everything kind of came together and I thought, I'm less perplexed. I'm not less perplexed about how he could do what he did, but
Yeah.
I'm less perplexed about why he did it. Shanann had confided in friends and family that her and Chris were having a few issues and that things were not quite so harmonious as they could have been. However, divorce had never been discussed. Well, not to our knowledge anyway. The only things that had been discussed was preparation for the new baby. And Chris was really hoping for a boy. He had his two beautiful girls and he really, really just wanted a boy to complete the pack. And it turned out that Shanann was actually pregnant with a boy. Not that that boy ever had a chance. Shanann worked hard. She showed great enthusiasm for her business that was called Thrive. It was based on health and vitamins, healthy nutritional drinks, supplements, things like that. She did pretty much like 110% everything she put her hand to. She really put her everything into it, and it was doing really well. But despite this, you know, thriving business, forgive the pun, but they had huge expenses. They had a big expensive house, they had large bills, and also it didn't help that Chris was a bit of a big spender as well as a big dickhead. Shanann had worked hard at trying to get their bills down, and she was really monitoring their expenses. She kept a close eye on their expenditures and tried to sort of limit Chris's spending where she could. In June 2018, Shanann, Celeste or Cece and Bella flew from their home in Colorado back to North Carolina to spend 6 weeks with Shanann's family. Chris was to stay at home and continue working and earning money to pay off the bills, all that like responsible stuff. However, that is not what Chris was doing. at least not the whole time. Chris and Nicole were speaking every day by this point. They actually went out to dinner, and Chris, being the chivalrous gentleman, paid the bill. At this very moment, Shanann, all the way in North Carolina, received a notification on her phone through their banking app with the amount of their dinner and the location. Shanann phoned Chris to question the amount on the bill because she was under the impression that he'd gone out with work colleagues and was just going to pay for dinner for himself, you know, 20, 30 bucks, whatever. So when she saw that sort of high amount come in, she thought, what? So she phoned him. And he kind of, you know, blew her off a little bit, and he was like, no, that's, you know, I'm out with work buddies. You know, it's just a bit of an expensive dinner, you know, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. But she said that he was being very vague, very cold, very distant. And she confided in a family member and said, you know, when I spoke to Chris, he seemed really off, you know, very cold and distant. And they sort of reassured her, and they said, well, maybe it's because he feels a bit lonely, a bit left out, what with his whole family being so far away from him. But this continued through the time that Shanann and the girls were in North Carolina. Chris was cutting phone calls short. He was hanging up without saying goodbye or I love you or anything. He continued to be cold. He wasn't texting Shanann back. He wasn't returning any of her calls. He didn't call to speak to the children. And Shanann got really upset about that. And when they did speak one day, she kind of came back at him and said, you know, you're not even phoning the children, you know, you're not phoning to speak to the girls to say goodnight. You're not phoning them first thing in the morning. You know, what's going on? Don't you care? Don't you miss us? And he was just very like, yeah, I do miss you, but you know, I'm busy, you know, and sorry, I'll make sure I phone tomorrow morning. And Shanann was like, don't do it because I'm telling you to do it. You should want to phone and speak to your girls, like what's with you, sort of thing. And he was like, oh, get off my case, kind of thing. So she was very upset by all this, and it seemed very out of character for Chris. On the 31st of July 2018, Chris flew to North Carolina to join his family. So we need to bear in mind by this point, Chris had been having an affair with Nicole for a good few weeks, and they were, by all accounts, you know, in contact multiple times a day. The family appeared to be having a great time in North Carolina. They took the girls, Bella and Cece, to the beach for the first time ever. Chris played and laughed and cuddled the girls, but Shanann felt completely closed out. She knew there was something wrong, but she just didn't know what. Shanann had pretty much had enough by this point, and she told Chris that she didn't understand what was going on. It had been his idea to have another baby, and he really, really wanted a boy, and that's what they were having. They had decided to name the boy Nico. When the family got home after this vacation, they got home to Colorado. Shanann was instantly preparing to go for a work trip for a couple of days to Arizona, I believe. The couple had a conversation about working on their relationship and trying to get things sort of back on track. And they both seemed on board with it. Shanann was overjoyed. She was really pleased that Chris was, you know, back with the family life, and that they were going to have this new start, and things would be better. However, she could never have imagined what horrors laid in wait. On August 9th, 2018, Shanann leaves on her business trip to Arizona When she leaves, she texts a friend and says, quote, "We had the best talk yet." Shanann even wrote a letter to Chris saying how happy she was about their new start. On August 11th, Shanann had only been gone for 2 days, and Chris decided that it would be a good idea to hire a babysitter for the girls and go out with his new love, Nicole. He told Shanann that he was going to a baseball game with some co-workers, but instead he and Nicole spent the evening at a bar being all loved up. So that's lovely. August 13th, 2018, 1:48 a.m. A friend called Nicole Atkinson, so this is a different Nicole. This is Shanann's friend, Nicole, gave Shanann a ride, or she dropped her off home because she'd been on the business trip as well. So 1:48 a.m. in the morning, Nicole drops Shanann off, waits for her to go in, and then drives off. Later that day, on August 13th at 1:40 p.m, so the afternoon of that day, Nicole Atkinson, so the same friend that had dropped Shanann off, had called several times, and she says, quote, "I knew that Shanann had made a doctor's appointment for around 9 a.m. that morning because she was pregnant and she hadn't been feeling well on the business trip, and she didn't show up for it and she wasn't returning my calls." End quote. So at 1:40 on August 13th, Shanann was officially reported as missing because Nicole had called the police to ask them to do a welfare check, and the police turned up at the house. Again, this whole video can be seen online on YouTube, very easily accessible, and it's all done through the police body cam. So the police turn up and they cannot gain access to the house without the homeowner's permission. And Nicole and I believe a friend of Nicole's, or maybe family, but there's another guy there, and he says to the officer, can't you just force entry, because we're really worried about her and something's not right. And the police officer says, I can't without the homeowner's permission. And the guy says, yes, but she's 15 weeks pregnant. What if something's happened to her? And the police officer sort of says, there isn't anything I can do without homeowner's permission unless I looked in the window and could see her laying on the floor, which I can't.
Yeah.
So that was that. Nicole.
So did the police get there and knock on the door and no one answered?
Yeah. So Nicole Atkinson is very distressed. She says that it's completely unlike Shanann, and she's talking to the police officer, and she even says to the police officer, Shanann's shoes that she wears all the time are still like by the front door, like outside. Like she obviously takes her shoes off before she goes in the house. And she's like, she always wears those shoes. There's no way that she would have left the house without putting her shoes on. So something's not right. The police contact Chris, who is at work, and he comes home. They have to wait quite a while for him to get home. I think they had to wait like half an hour, 45 minutes or something for Chris to get home. But he comes home, he walks up to the police officer, shakes his hand. He goes in the garage. He doesn't go in the front door. He goes in the garage. Shanann's car is in the garage. And Chris kind of goes over to the car, opens the car door, leans in the car, and he's kind of doing something in the car, and then comes out, shuts the car door, goes in the door to the house through the garage, and shuts the door behind him, which I thought was, it might just be me being British, but I thought that was really rude. He just kind of
left the police outside.
Yeah, like the policeman standing kind of in the entrance to the garage, and Chris just like, it doesn't say anything like, oh, I'll just go and open the front door, or come in this way, or anything like that. He just kind of walks through the door and slams the door behind him. And I was like, oh,
well,
rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being rude, I suppose.
What do you expect?
The least. But yeah, and then obviously you can see them all in the house through this body cam footage. And they're all in the house at this point, and they're all kind of walking around the house. And although no one's calling for Shanann or anything like that, and Chris kind of goes into the kitchen. Like, it just, obviously we know what he does, but he just acts like, I can't help but put myself in his position. If Shanann was like missing or whatever, I kind of think if I was looking for Claire, I would come in and I would be calling her.
Yeah.
And I would go straight to the bedroom, have a look, you know, and see if she's in the bedroom, go and see if she's in the shower.
I think you'd call their mobile phone as well, wouldn't you?
I mean, you'd be walking around at least properly trying to look, but he doesn't. He kind of goes in the kitchen. He's sort of standing in the kitchen for a bit. And then he goes upstairs with the police, and the policeman's sort of saying to him, so, you know, have you got any idea where she could be? And he's just like, no. Well, the last time I spoke to her, she said that she was going to take the kids and go to her friends. And he's like, right, okay, when did she say that? And he said, well, early this morning when I left for work, because Chris leaves at like 5 o'clock in the morning for work. And he's just very sort of, well,
vague.
she said she was going to go to her friends and take the girls, but yeah, so maybe she's there and all that. And then he kind of comes out with this bombshell of, we had a chat last night when she got home, or this morning when she got home, and we decided that we're going to get a divorce. We've been talking about it for a while, bearing in mind that Nicole Atkinson, who's like one of Shannon's best mates, she's also standing there going, what?
That's not true. Yeah.
That she didn't say anything about that. And she would confide in me, you know, and she was saying the opposite. She was saying that they're having this new start and we had the best talk ever, you know, and so she was completely perplexed. She was just, where's this coming from? And then Chris kind of walks out of the bedroom and he says, holding Shanann's phone up, and he goes, her phone's here. And her best mate, Nicole, at that point goes, oh my God, something's wrong. There is no way that Shanann would leave her phone here. She lives on her phone. We've already spoken about the amount of posts that she does. And yeah, Nicole was just like, nah, there's something really, really wrong with that. Then Chris walks out with Shanann's wedding ring on his finger like that. And he says, she's left her wedding ring here. And they're like, her car's here. Her phone's here. Her wedding
shoes are here.
Her shoes are here. There aren't any, like, there's not clothes and things taken out the wardrobe and all that. And the police says to Chris, when you said about, you know, getting a divorce and that, how did she take that? And Chris kind of goes, well, we've been talking about it for a while, so, you know, is what it is, sort of thing. And he's very vague and bastard-like about it. Yeah. So Chris, Nicole Atkinson and this friend and the police go through the house. They're looking for Shanann. You know, Chris is opening, like, when I say opening bedroom doors, he's opening it like about a foot, poking his head in, coming back out, pulling the door shut, walking in, opening it, poking his head. And it's a real half-hearted, like, search, if you can call it that. It's like he's just ticking boxes while the police are watching him. He's like, well, I better be seen to be actually sort of looking and checking. You think he would be in slightly more of a panic considering his children aren't there. And it's like, all right, if you've fallen out with your wife, that's one thing. But if your children are gone and you don't know where they are, to the point where the police have been called in, I would be more frantic. I just would.
Yeah,
I'd be like, I need to know where my kids are. You know, I might not care about where Shanann's gone, but I need to know where my kids are. And he's just not.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know why, but then the police say, all right, well, if there's nothing else for us to do here, then we'll just nip next door. And Chris says, why are we going next door? And the policeman says, just one of your neighbours, or your next door neighbour, has mentioned that he's got CCTV footage and we might be able to see when Shanann left and if she got into someone's car. And honestly, Chris shits his knickers at this point. He's like, what?
Oh, shit.
Oh, God, I didn't think of that. So they go next door, and to Chris's horror, it catches him at around 5 a.m. putting, I don't want to say stuff, but he's putting something into the back of his car. He's backed all the way up so that the bum of the car is kind of in the garage. But you can clearly see him moving around, putting something in the back. And at this point, Chris goes from, you know, sketchy to super shitty, fucking sketchy. Like, he looks like he's in a panic. He's putting his hands up on his head. He's pacing, he's rocking, everything. And even the neighbour says, when Chris leaves, after they play this footage, the neighbour says to the police officer, he's never like this. Like, he's normally fairly quiet,
Cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, very sort of chilled and cool. And, you know, he said, I've literally never seen him like this. He said that there's something wrong. Something's like, he's lying about something, because I've never seen him like this. Then the next day, on August 14th, Chris appears on local news to plead for his family to please come home. And I am going to play this clip for you now. It's a couple of minutes long.
Chris Watts, WATTS.
Wow. What's going on right now around your house?
Right now, it's you got K9 units, the sheriff's department. Everybody's like they're doing their best right now to figure out like if they can get a scent, and see where they went. If they went on foot, they went in a car, they went somewhere. And right now, it's just like they've been on point. They're going through the house trying to get a scent, and hopefully they can pick something up to where it's going to lead to something.
What happened? Your wife came home. Tell me what's.
She came home from the airport 2 a.m. and I left around 5:15. She was still here, and like about 12:10 in that afternoon, her friend Nicole showed up at the door. Like, I had texted Shanann a few times that day, called her, say, you know, but she never got back to me. But she wasn't getting back to any of her people as well, and that's what really concerned a lot of people. Is like, if she's not getting back to her, like, if she doesn't get back to me, that's fine. Like, she gets busy during the day, but she didn't get back to her people, which was very concerning. And Nicole called me when she was at the door, and that's when I came home. And then walked in the house, and nothing was vanished. Nothing was here. I mean, she wasn't here. The kids weren't here. Nope, nobody was here.
What's your wife's name?
Shanann, Shanann.
What's your kids' name?
Bella and Celeste.
How do you spell it? Celeste.
Celeste.
How old are your daughters?
4, Bella's 4, Celeste is 3.
And so, how many times did you try calling her?
I called her 3 times, texted her about 3 times, just to say, you know, what's going on. Like, because after I called her and texted her once, it's like maybe she was just busy. Like, she'd just gotten back, you know, like everybody's probably calling her from her trip. She just got back from Arizona, and I figured she was just busy. But when her friend showed up, that's what it was like. It registered like, all right, this isn't right.
Do you think she just took off? Do you think?
I mean, right now I don't even want to just like throw anything out there. Like, I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she event? Could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now. Like that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're gonna come back. But if they're not safe right now, that's the not knowing part. Like, if they're not safe, last night I had every light in the house on. I was hoping that I would just ran over by the kids running in the door and just like barrel rushing me, but it didn't happen. And it was just a traumatic night trying to be here.
I'm gonna ask some kind of tough questions about your relationship with your kids.
Yeah, my kids are my life. I mean, those smiles light up my life. And it's like, I mean, last night, like during when they usually eat dinner, it was just like I miss them. Like, I mean, I miss telling them, hey, you got to eat that or you're not gonna get your dessert, and just like you're not gonna get your snack after. I miss that. Like, I miss them, cuddle up on their couches. They have like a Minnie Mouse couch and a Sophia couch that they cuddle up on and watch, Bubble Guppies or something. And it was just like, it was tearing me apart last night, and I needed that. I needed that last night, and for nobody to be here last night and to go into their rooms and know that I wasn't going to turn the rain machines on, and I know that I wasn't going to turn their monitor on, and know I wasn't going to kiss them to bed tonight. It was. That's why last night was just horrible. I couldn't do it.
Isn't it funny how you can tell from somebody's eyes that they're a complete sociopath? If you look at his eyes throughout that whole thing, there's just nothing. It's devoid of everything.
Yeah. It's really uncomfortable because you can watch it and think from a perspective of he's a dad that doesn't know where his kids are. And, when he talks about, I was just hoping that the front door was going to open last night and they were going to come rushing in and, barrel rush me and, cuddle and, not being able to put their little, I think he says something about their little like rain machine or something. And their monitors on and things like that. And you think, oh, that's heartbreaking. That must be, because it's the little things, isn't it, that you cherish about your children, and you like doing certain things for your children. And, mine's always less with Jess now because she's a teenager. But, with Lewis, I like him to like have a nice hot bath and, for him to be all dried and snuggle him up in like nice, clean, warm pajamas, get him in his bed, tuck him in, and things like that. But then when you watch it from a different perspective, you think there's just no words for it, because he's fully aware while he's making this video, he's fully aware of where his children are. He's fully aware of where his wife is. And, I just hope for him to say, I just hope they're together and that they're safe. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's hard to watch because, his mouth is moving and the right words are coming out.
Yeah.
But that's it. There's no emotion in his face. There's no body language to suggest that he actually, there's nothing to match the words that are coming out of his mouth.
No.
He's just standing there talking.
Yeah, exactly. He's a piece of work for sure. Bastard. Yeah, bastard. He definitely, in the bits where they're setting up for the cameras and they're getting everything ready, like he's properly laughing. Like, laughing and sort of joking, and they're sort of speaking to him and he's like very jovial and that, and you just think, it takes a whole different person to be like that.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't, and I couldn't stand there and talk about all the lovely things about my children, knowing what I've just done, like a matter of like hours, you know, hours before, you know, just over 24 hours before. It's just, anywho, on August 15th, 2018, Chris is taken to the police station for questioning and submitted to a polygraph test. They ask him things like if he knows where Shanann is, if he knows where the children are, if he knows what happened to them, if he had anything to do with them going missing, if he'd hurt them, all these things. To all of the above, he said no. And he failed. Surprise, surprise.
That just goes to show as well. So he's a complete psychopath because he generally thinks that he's smarter than everybody. He's one step ahead of everybody. And he thinks so much so that I can pass a lie detector test, no problem, I'll take it. He just thinks that he's so much smarter than everybody else.
They even say to him before they do the test, you know, this is going to tell us if you're lying or not. So is there anything that you want to tell us, you know, before you do the test? And he's like, nope. And she's like, are you happy to continue do the test? And he's like, yep, let's do it. Completely fucking deluded. So they take him in. He fails the lie detector test. They take him into the police interview, and they're talking to him at length, and he's, you know, adamant, no, I don't know where they are, don't know what happened, I love my children, all this. Towards the end of his interview, they decide to take a bit of a break and allow Chris's father to come in and see him. Chris's dad was there the whole time that he's being questioned. As soon as he got arrested or, you know, asked to go to the police station, Chris's father was there the whole time. So his dad comes in, sits down, and he says, oh, what's going on? You know, well, what's all this about, kind of thing. And I don't know whether Chris didn't realize. I think he did realize, but I don't know if he just didn't care that he was still being recorded, or whether it was all too much and he thought, oh, do you know what, sod it, I need to say something, I need to tell someone. But for whatever reason, he kind of confesses what had really happened to his dad, although obviously this is another big fat lie, but it's closer to the truth. So I have this recording and I was going to play it, but to be honest, there's such a lot of background noise. And I couldn't even hear word for word what was being said. It's so quiet. Chris speaks really quietly. His dad speaks really quietly. It's the recording of the interview room, so that you can hear
staticky camera, anyways.
You can hear sort of ground, you know, air noise or whatever. But what he says is that Shanann had found out about Chris and Nicole's affair, and they'd had a bit of a row, and she said to him, you're never going to see the children again. He then shot upstairs, goes into the children's bedrooms, and both children are deceased, and Shanann had smothered them both and killed them both. Chris, obviously traumatized by this, flies into a rage and strangles Shanann to death. He said to his dad, again, I can't give you word for word because I couldn't hear it, but in a roundabout way, he says to his dad, I panicked, but they're my children. She'd killed my children. And I can't protect her. And his dad's like, she killed the children. And then what? And you killed her. And he's like, yeah, I freaked out. They're my kids. They're my kids. I strangled Shanann. I apologize. I keep calling her Shannon. It's just habit. But yeah, sorry, Shanann. He then panicked and disposed of their bodies. This is absolutely not what happened, and we do know that for a fact. So I'll come back to what really happened in a sec. August 16th, 2018, the police recovered the bodies of Shanann, Bella, and Cece. August 21st, 2018, Chris Watts was officially arrested and charged with first-degree murder. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, plus 2 additional first-degree charges for the victims being 12 or younger, and obviously they were 3 and 4. He faced another 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy, plus another 3 counts for tampering with a body, which was a total of 9 charges. September 1st, 2018 was the funeral held for Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico. And that was at the Sacred Heart Catholic Church in Pinehurst, North Carolina. Throughout the whole 90-minute ceremony, Chris is never mentioned once. Great decision. Now, here's the difficult bit. So I'm going to tell you what Chris actually did do with his family. I'm also going to let Chris tell you some of it, because this is his burden to bear. And unlike Chris, it actually sickens me to my core to even say the words, although I will go over it afterwards. I've got the next clip is Chris confessing some time on. So he was already in prison by this point. The audio, like we said about background noise, was really, really bad on this one. But I think I've managed to clear it up quite well. So,
pat on the back.
Good for me. But yeah, so I'll play the audio for you, and then afterwards I'll go through what he does actually say on the tape.
Girls are still in the truck.
Okay.
Did they ask you what you were doing, taking mommy out, or?
Yeah, I don't remember what I told them, but they did ask that.
What they say specifically?
It was more like, what are you doing to mommy?
Okay. All right. And then the girls, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. You mentioned Bella was first. Cece was first. Okay. Where exactly was she when it happened?
In the back seat.
Okay. Was she just right next to Bella?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so once again, was it a hand over her face? Was it?
It was a blanket over my hand.
And then your hand. Okay. And then so that just stopped her from breathing type thing? Okay. Did she struggle at all?
I don't think so, but I was blocking her face and my hand was right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
You had one hand here and one hand over her mouth.
And were you just pushing her against the back of the seat type thing? Okay. What was Bella doing?
She was sitting there next to her. She didn't know what was going on.
Okay. Could she see you? Okay. Tell me about what you were thinking.
I was thinking it's what happened.
Yeah.
Right, any partial hint of what I feel for those girls and what I feel for my wife, but none of this would have happened, so I wasn't thinking.
Okay. So she's in the back seat. Okay. And then once she's gone, then is it Bella next, or did you pull Cece out?
I pulled Cece out.
Okay, so once Cece's gone, Bella's still there. in the car alive, and then you pulled Cece out. What'd you do with her? Okay. So she went into the tank, and Bella was still in the back of the truck alive. Okay. With regard to that tank, did you bring up Cece, put her down, open the hatch?
Brought her up, opened the hatch.
And then put her in. Okay. And then went down to Bella. Tell me what happened there.
She said, "What happened to Cece?" First, she asked, it was the same thing, the exact same thing that happened to me as Cece.
Did she ask you that? Okay. So Bella's pretty smart. How did she sound when she asked you that, Chris?
She had that soft voice she always had.
And what exactly did she say?
She said that it's the same thing that happened to me as Cece. And then I said, I don't even remember what I said.
Okay.
I don't know if I just said yes, like a horrible person, or if I just put that blanket over her too and did the same thing.
Same blanket, same way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She said, "No, Daddy." That's what she said.
You know what makes me even angrier, like hearing him say that, is that he sounds upset, and I don't think he's got the right to be upset.
I feel the same.
I feel like the audacity that he's got
Yeah.
to say that he smothered those two little girls, and he sounds upset.
Yeah, I know.
He just doesn't have the right to be.
I know. I don't know. He's just
And he said,
knob.
"Oh, I wasn't thinking. If I'd have stopped and thought about my wife and my kids, then it wouldn't have happened. But
yeah.
I just wasn't thinking."
Why-
That's not.
Why cover up for it all then? Why do plea the next day and be saying, "Oh, I needed my kids to come home last night. I needed that.
And also to go and murder your children and have it not be one after the other. Have it be, I'll murder the small one, and then I'll take her out, and then I'll dispose of her body, and then I'll come back. That's a clear thought pattern.
Yeah.
He's clearly thinking there. That's not a moment of panic. That's not a moment of madness.
No.
That's clarity.
Yeah. It's honestly no.
And you know what?
words.
I'm still going. I'm still having it. What annoys me even more is that nobody says these things to him. They're sat there listening. They go, "Oh, okay. Yeah. And then what did you do?" No one goes, "Cut the bullshit. You was thinking. This is what you did."
Yeah, I know.
Even though she said, "No, Daddy, you still done it." And he's going, "Oh, I don't remember what I said." Of course you fucking did.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's just the worst kind of betrayal. That's the only thing that I can think. The ultimate betrayal.
I wonder if you're allowed to write to him.
Probably.
I must say a few things.
Interesting. So what Chris actually admits to is that what happened is he strangled Shanann and put her in the car. Again, there's different sources say different things. Quite a lot of the sources that I looked at, he actually put her in the back seat. I don't know, obviously, we don't know if he did. Some sources say that he put her in the boot of the car, in the actual back of the car, but he had a truck. He had a flatbed truck.
Yeah.
So
just rewind a minute. So he confessed to his dad in the police station that he'd murdered Shanann, but not the children. Yeah. And then what then happened next? Because the police then found their bodies. So did he disclose the location that he'd put their bodies?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that when he made the confession, the untrue confession to the police after he spoke to his dad, that he said Shanann had killed the children, he killed Shanann, and then he panicked, he didn't know what to do, so he then disposed of their bodies where they were, and that's obviously the next day was when they found the bodies.
So straight away they didn't believe what he was saying about Shanann killing the children. They believed that he'd killed everybody, and that's why they charged him.
I believe so, yeah. So what had actually happened was that at home he'd got in, him and Shanann had a huge argument. He ended up strangling Shanann and killed her. He then went into the children's bedrooms and smothered the children to try and kill them as well. I don't understand why he would want to do that. If his issues are with Shanann, I mean, not that that makes it okay that he did that to Shanann, but I don't understand why these family annihilators just do it with the children, like take the children out of it as well. I don't understand.
Well, they want to eradicate that bit of life, don't they? They don't want any ties connecting them because they've got this new life that they want. And it always seems to be that it's normally an affair or, moving abroad or whatever. And so they want to cut all ties, and
it's just horrible.
Yeah.
So, so he went in the bedroom, he smothered the children with their pillows, and he thought that he'd actually killed them. But then they woke up. So he put Shanann on the back seat in the car. She was deceased, and she sat the children either side of her. He then drove the three of them to the oil plant where he worked, and I'm going to put up a video of that oil plant so that you can get a better idea. But it's basically two great big oil tanks where they put the waste oil, I think. So two big tanks, a staircase that goes to the top of these tanks, and it's literally like in the middle of nowhere. There's just kind of desert, it looks like, all around.
A bit like the Elisa Lam, but the water tank, instead of it being a water tank, it's an oil.
And in the middle of nowhere. So he drove the three of them out there, and on the back seat the girls obviously were saying, "What did you do to mummy?" To which he says he didn't answer. He first took Cece, who was 3 years old at the time, placed a blanket over her face and carried her out of the car. He took her to the top of the staircase at the side of one of the large oil tanks. He opened the hatch and dropped her in. He then returned to the car for little 4-year-old Bella. Bella asked her dad if he was going to do the same thing to her as he had just done to her little sister Cece. Chris claims that he doesn't remember what he answered, but he said he might have just said yes. He said the words of his 4-year-old daughter will haunt him for the rest of his life, as she pleaded with him not to kill her, as he carried her to the top of the stairs of the same tank and began to lower her body into the tank. He said her last words on this earth were, "Daddy, no." Chris then buried Shanann's lifeless body in a shallow grave just several meters away from where the tank was, where her daughters had taken their last breaths. On November 6th, 2018, Chris pled guilty to all 9 counts, and Shanann's family requested that the death penalty was taken off the table. They said that Chris had no right to take the lives of Shanann and their grandchildren, and they felt that they had no right to take Chris's life. At Chris Watts' sentencing, Shanann's family members were given the chance to have their say, and I'm not going to play all of them, but I am going to show you Shanann's father and his speech at Chris's sentencing.
Good morning, Mr. Ruzick.
Good morning. I'd like to say to the courts that Shanann, Bella, and Nico love and caring people. They love life. They love being around people who love them. They always had good times. This is the first time they went to the beach this year, and they loved it. But God only knows what happened that night. Life will never be the same without Shanann, Bella, and Celeste and Nico. Had all their lives to live. They were taken by a heartless one. This is the heartless one, the evil monster, who dare you take the lives of my daughters Shanann, Bella, Celeste, and Nico. I trusted you to take care of them, not kill them. And they also trusted you. The heartless monster, and then you take them out like trash. You disgust me. They were loving and caring people. You may have taken their bodies from me, but you will never take the love they had from me. They loved us more than you will ever know, because you don't know what love is, because if you did, you would not have killed them. You monster, thought you would get away with this. I don't know how. The cameras do not lie. You carry them out like trash of the house. Yes, I seen the videotape. You buried my daughter Shanann and Nico in a shallow grave, and then you put Bella and Celeste in huge containers of crude oil. You heartless monster. You have to live with this vision every day of your life, and I hope you see that every time you close your eyes at night. Oh, I forgot. You have no heart or feelings or love. Let me tell you something. I will think of them every day of my life, and I love them every day of my life. Prison is too good for you. This is hard to say, but may God have mercy on your soul. I hope you enjoy your new life. It's nothing like the one you had out here. May the courts have no mercy on you. It's hard every day. It hurts in so many ways. I have heard people say that you're not a monster. No, you are not. You're an evil monster. Thank you. Love you, Shanann, Bella, and Nico. Love you, Pop and Dad.
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like, so for everybody that's listening and not watching, that's obviously in the courtroom, and the podium is actually in front of the
Judge.
Yes, it's in front of the judge. So basically, Chris is sat behind Shanann's dad, and and Shanann's dad is facing the judge. I would have turned that around.
I know, I
to
thought the
face
same
him.
thing.
Yeah, because he just is sitting there with a completely blank expression on his face, like he's not even taking in anything that's being said.
Oh, it's enraging.
I absolutely would have turned that around and spoke directly to him.
It is really really awful. And I think what we'll do is I've got some other videos that I think maybe we should just put on social media.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got the video of Shanann's brother and her mother at the sentencing. And yeah, I've got some other bits and pieces, so we'll put that on social media. But yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know how you're going to feel about these things and how you're going to deal with these things until, you know, unfortunately you're in that position. But I feel the same as you. I think I would just really need to say that to his face.
To his
Like,
face.
maintain eye contact and just say it to him. But maybe I don't know, maybe it's just too hard for them to actually look at him while they're sort of talking. Otherwise, maybe you just wouldn't get it out.
Yeah.
Or you'd get too enraged and end up flying at him and ripping his head off his shoulders. That's a nice thought. But so the motive behind the murders remains subject of much speculation and debate. It's believed that financial and marital issues, as well as extramarital affair, played a huge role in the tragic events. Personally, my belief is that I think Chris found living the family life a bit too hard. Paying bills, raising children was not his idea of fun. And I think when he found himself a nice little mistress, he just thought, I'll get rid of the family and I'll have this. Life will be great. So do you remember me saying that I was going to come back to Chris's girlfriend, Nicole? Well, there's a lot of controversy around this. And I kind of, when I first found out about this case, I kind of took it at face value and thought, well, yeah, he was having an affair, but he wasn't happy at home and maybe had like a moment of madness, and I still never understood it. But I just thought, because it was very publicized how, you know, Nicole, this woman on the side, didn't know any of this. She didn't know that he was actually married. She thought he was like, you know, this guy that was going through a divorce or already divorced. And, you know, she was, you know, disgusted by it all. And, oh, I can't believe he's done that. What a monster. And I never really thought anything else to it. But that doesn't seem to be the case. So Nicole says she had no idea. She claims to be very much the innocent party in this. And Chris also really sort of protects her and says she didn't know anything, you know, she thought we were separating, blah, blah, blah. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. She says she had no idea that they were still together and they were expecting a baby. She didn't know anything about it. That turns out to not be true. So here's what I have found. So obviously, when the police found out that Chris was having an affair, this was the moment that Nicole contacted the police and said, I think there's something amiss here. I've been seeing this guy called Chris Watts, and it turns out that this, and this, and I didn't know about that, and blah, blah, blah. But she only went to the police like weeks later when it came out about Chris and her affair. If she felt that all this was like, oh my goodness, you know, this is not right, I've got evidence, why the hell didn't she go to the police before that? Why did she only go to the police when she thought she was going to be implicated somewhere? Yeah. So anyway, the police obviously found out about the affair. They bring Nicole in for questioning, and, you know, they want to look through her phone, search her phone records, things like that. Nicole's search history shows that she searched Shanann Watts in January 2018, which is actually 5 months before she'd even met Chris at work.
Right.
Strange. Also, a search on her phone came up for Shanann Watts in September 2017, which is 9 months before she met Chris. Seems a bit odd. In August 2017, her phone showed a search for Chris Watts, a whopping 10 months before they met.
Do we think she's a bit of a stalker?
Well, I think I think there's something to it. It's just, honestly, the things that I found out, I was like, what? Why was this not looked into more? Nicole and, solicitors, her father, they all said that they were typos. She hadn't searched Shanann Watts. She hadn't searched Chris Watts.
What
all
are
that
they
time ago.
typos for?
I don't know. Chris Watts was probably dictionary definition of wanker.
Yeah.
And Chris Watts, what do you know? I don't know. That's what they said. They're typos.
Right.
Nicole also had links on her phone to Shanann's Facebook page. And this had many views on it. So she'd looked at her Facebook page a lot.
Yeah.
When authorities were questioned about all of these searches, they said that they didn't know why or how those searches appeared on her phone, but they weren't typos. They were definite, clear searches.
Yeah.
There had been no autocorrect that had suddenly pinged up on there, and
well, it'd be a massive
bulb
coincidence
wattage.
if she typed something and it changed to Shanann Watts, and then later on she typed something and changed it to Chris Watts, and they just happened to there are no coincidences.
No, exactly. It's like, that's ridiculous. When Chris Watts pled guilty to the murders, this information was not looked into. It was just stopped. It was like, Chris
has done it. Yeah,
he's confessed now to doing it. So the end. Like, what the fuck? Like, why would the authorities just suddenly go, oh well, we've got our man now, so.
Well, that's exactly what they do.
Don't need to look into that. But what if it had been both of them? Would you not like look into it a bit more?
Yeah.
Nicole's father was with Nicole during the whole investigation. He was present in all her police interviews, which is not standard procedure. She's an adult. Mm-hmm. She's not underage, so she doesn't need an adult there. He was there, but he's got a lot of ties with the police and the judicial system, things like that. So that maybe comes into play. But her father kept saying to the police, but if Chris is going to plead guilty, then all of this goes away, doesn't it? Like, it's irrelevant. You don't need to look at her phone because it's irrelevant, isn't it? If he pleads guilty, then the investigation into my daughter stops, doesn't it? And all this. It's just like,
yeah.
Well, it did, but it shouldn't have done.
Because that's dodgy as shit.
Yeah. Then there's Shanann's Facebook post about Chris on Father's Day. So she made this whole post about, we love you so much. You're the best husband. You're the best father, blah, blah, blah. So if we are to believe that Nicole was under the impression that Chris and Shanann were separated, then she would have known that this wasn't true, because Shanann's posts were full of, oh, we love you and you're the best thing that's ever happened, and you complete our family and all that. So Nicole kept insisting that she couldn't remember anything. When she was asked about the things that Chris and her had spoken about, absolutely nothing. She was just like, oh God, I don't know, it was so long ago, I just don't remember. My head is, she's just very like, oh God, no, I don't remember what we spoke about. And these were people, Nicole and Chris were speaking multiple times every day.
Yeah.
Like it was like a proper obsession for both of them. They were like obsessed with each other, especially Chris with her.
Mm-hmm.
He would every time he saw her, he would take his wedding ring off, put it in his pocket, or leave it at work or leave it at home. Also, Nicole claims that she had no idea that Shanann was pregnant until she saw the news report about them being missing, and they mentioned, Shanann, 15-week-old, 15-week pregnant woman or mother or whatever, is missing at the moment, and then obviously saw Chris on TV. But again, Shanann had put all those, like she put the baby reveal video on Facebook, and Chris going, oh my God, that's awesome, you know, and all that. So Shanann being pregnant was all over her Facebook page.
Yeah.
Like she would have known. When the police asked her about knowing if Shanann was pregnant, her dad, in the interview, her dad shuts it down straight away, and he's saying, don't ask leading questions. And from the police perspective, they were thinking, well, no, if Nicole found out that Shanann was pregnant, then she could have ended it with Chris, giving him a motive. That would have been the ideal motive. He could have thought, if I get rid of Shanann, then I can be with Nicole.
Yeah.
And they're trying to explain that. And Nicole's dad's just shutting it down. At one point, he says, did you hear what I said to the police? And they're like, yeah, we heard you, but we're trying to follow the lines of inquiry. We're trying to find out if there was a motive for Chris to have done what he done.
Was he acting as her lawyer?
Well, kind of, yeah, but not. But yeah, but not. You know, it's like he was there because like he was her dad, and he was going, stop leading the question, stop leading the interview, and stop giving her these questions. Like that's not okay. And he's calling the police, or the detective, he's calling him by his first name. I think he calls him Nick. And he goes, Nick, did you hear what I said? Like, God. Stop. Like that. And I was just like, surely that's not right.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, who do you think you are? But yeah, so moving on, Nicole claims that her and Chris's relationship was fairly casual. Like throughout the interview, she says, you know, no, I told him, I said, listen, we need to slow it down. You know, you spend time with your daughters. You know, I've got an independent life. I'll do my own thing. You do your thing. We'll meet up as and when. Weeks, you know, when you go through the divorce, when you've got like a week with the girls, I'll do my own thing. You can spend that time with the girls. When you haven't got the girls, we'll spend some time together. But, you know, we don't need to spend every day together. You know, we'll just keep it casual and all that. This is what she says in the in the interview. But her internet searches show something completely different.
Yeah.
It shows her searching for wedding dresses for over 2 hours.
Off that sort of time.
I know. Who cares that much about wedding dresses? Oh, I know a lot of the world do. But after this 2-hour stretch of looking at wedding dresses, she searched the term, will a man marry his mistress?
Oh.
I have a few issues with this. If she thinks that Chris and Shanann were separated, why would she be referring to herself as a mistress?
Very true.
Yep. Nicole said she didn't speak to Chris at all on the 14th. This was the day of the murders. But her phone records show that she spoke to him several times.
Oh, she's such a liar, Teller.
Such a lying bitch. And these, a lot of it was in the early hours of the morning. So this would have been on or very close to the time when Chris was annihilating his whole family and disposing of their bodies. He took their bodies at 5 a.m. So, like, how would he have been on the phone to her and for her to truly not have known anything?
Yeah, and also it just goes to show that it wasn't a moment of madness, because he's also having conversations and then going back to what he's doing. He's probably killed his family and then stopped to reply and then gone back to get their bodies, put it in the car, stopped to reply, and then... Yeah,
if you look at the timeline, no, these were actual phone calls. So he was physically on the phone to her. So Shanann didn't get home till 1:48 a.m. So say 2 a.m. She got home at 2 a.m. By 5 a.m., so 3 hours,
Yeah.
He's loading the bodies into the car.
Yeah, so he must have killed her pretty swiftly after she
Yeah.
got home.
And all of like those early hours, he was also on the phone to Nicole. So how could she not have known anything? It just,
Yeah.
oh.
What's the need as well for her to be phoning him at that time in the morning?
And don't
What's
forget,
the need?
they're casual.
Yeah.
They don't need to be in each other's pockets 24/7. They're
Uh-huh.
keeping it casual. She also searched on her phone these phrases: can cops trace text messages? And another one was, how long do phone companies keep text messages? And another one was, what is the difference between text message content and text message detail?
Right. So she's looking to see whether she knows a crime has happened.
Yes,
And she's
exactly.
looking to see whether they can
Yeah.
track her text messages
If you
and
knew
what they
nothing,
say.
if you knew absolutely nothing, why would you be searching those things? Can cops
Yeah,
trace
if
text messages? Who
yeah,
cares?
why would they need
You're
to?
innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
At
And
any point, my partner, my kids, the police can look at my phone all they want. All they're going to get is a whole load of pictures of puppy.
yep.
That's it.
But it's, if she's with a guy and then all of a sudden she doesn't know anything and then this guy's appearing on the news and she's like, oh, his whole family's gone missing. She's just going to think that his family's missing. He's going to be like, oh gosh, like, his family's, I'll see if I can help because I actually know this guy, and go to the police and whatever else. But she's not. She's searching on her phone. Can cops trace my text messages? Because she knows that a crime has happened and that the police are going to be involved.
Well, I've got a doozy of a search next. So there's, I read about it and I didn't put it in my notes and I'm really pissed off, but I'm going to tell you all anyway about it. So she searched this woman who was in the same kind of situation as she was. So there's another woman who was in a relationship with a guy who then annihilated his whole family. And she went on to like write a book about it. She was in this relationship. She wasn't connected to it like Nicole seems to be. But she basically wrote about this guy that she thought was single. Anyway, she searched this woman's name. So she obviously knew of this woman.
And
she
what
searched,
happened.
She searched this woman's name and she put, how much did whatever this woman's name is get for her book deal?
He's going to say that. Was that before or do we know if that's before or after the murders?
We don't know. No, I know. It's a bugger,
if that's
isn't it?
before.
Yeah, I mean, it was this, well, it would have been either that night or right after, or obviously, or before. But I mean, I'm guessing it would have been, it must have been before. It must have been before, but I don't know.
Because it wasn't actually proven that he killed his entire family for weeks afterwards, was it?
No, exactly.
So she was, missing for a couple of days before.
Yeah, exactly. And then obviously, when you think you're deleting things, they're never really deleted. There's always a trace of them. So she then deleted all of those searches. So that in itself,
guilty
she did
face.
all those dodgy, guilty text messages, searches, and then she went on to delete them all. Why would you delete them all? Why would you search for them? Why would you delete it? A big one for me is the phone call that showed Chris and Nicole had that, and it was actually a FaceTime call just before midnight on the night of the murders. This call lasted 1 hour, 51 minutes. And Shanann got home at 1:48. So this was...
He's heard her come in and then hung up.
Possibly. Chris told the police that he was out for the count. He was fast asleep when Shanann got home. I don't think he was. Police asked Nicole what they spoke about for 1 hour and 51 minutes. And she said, what do you think she said?
Oh gosh, I can't remember.
Spot on, 100%. She couldn't remember a damn thing about that conversation. Nothing, not one thing. And they said, yeah, but you were on the phone for like nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
What? Give me the gist. And she, in the interview, you can hear her saying, I, no idea. No idea. We talked about all sorts of stuff. We speak all the time. It's really difficult. And she hones in. You're asking me to remember word for word what I had a conversation about. I don't remember what I even spoke about this morning, and the police officer, she's talking over him. The police officer's going, no, not word for word. No, I just need a gist. And I just like, and she's just
What's
going,
the content?
I have no idea. I can't remember. I have no idea. You're asking me something that, you know, I spoke about, you know, weeks ago and blah, blah, blah. And I have no idea. And it's just ridiculous. Like not one thing.
Do you want to know what I think that they spoke about?
Always.
I think that they've devised this murder and that they was going through the plan and how it was going to happen, because he's got off the phone to her as soon as Shanann's come home, and then he's pretty much straight away murdered her. And then she's then ringing back to say, have you done it? Have you done it? Have you done it? And then he's talking to her about it. And, you know,
Yeah.
I think
she's probably like, you know, make it look like she left you.
Make sure you take her ring off. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of further fishiness coming. As if all of that wasn't bad enough, at 6 a.m. on the morning of the murders, Nicole's mobile phone, or for our American listeners, her cell phone, pinged off a tower near the Watts family home. Nicole lived 25 minutes away, and the record showed her phone pinging at her home when they were having that 1 hour, 51-minute call.
Mm-hmm.
She was at home. At, I think it was 6:16 a.m. on the morning of the murders, Nicole's phone pings at their home.
What are you doing there, Nicole?
Exactly. And looking at her records, weeks and weeks after obviously Chris goes to prison, her phone never pings at that tower again, because obviously he's been arrested.
Need to be there. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. She doesn't go back to the house, so it never pings there again, because there was some people going, well, yeah, but it could have,
maybe it's en route to somewhere, or
yeah, maybe it just sort of pinged as a bit of a glitch or something. I mean, that's a hell of a unfortunate glitch that on that morning it would
it's
ping
the same as the
at that tower.
typos, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunate typos.
So 6:16, she would have been somewhere at the house. And there was also reports of a neighbour seeing a truck that looked like the truck Nicole drives as well, being in the neighbourhood.
She a shady bitch.
She's shady bitch. So Nicole's phone records show that on average she makes at least one call every hour. Like, she is on her phone all the time, obsessed.
She a needy bitch.
She needy shady bitch. The day that her phone pinged at the tower near Chris's home, from there, so 6:16 when it pings at Chris's house, all the way through until 2 p.m. that afternoon, there is no activity on her phone. Nothing. I mean, from people that have viewed her phone records and gone through it and looked at it, everyone said this is completely out of the ordinary. Yeah. Like, all the way leading up, she's on her phone, weeks and weeks and weeks, months and months and months ahead. She's always on her phone. Just that one day is the exception. She also didn't go to work until 2 p.m. That day. So, I mean, again, you've got to think, if she did know, she's going to work right near where Chris's family are all dead.
Yeah.
Suspicious and shady. So I'm going to wrap all of this up. I thought it'd be lovely for you all to see Chris's sentencing, where he is sent down for all this heinous activity. So I hope you all enjoy hearing Chris's sentencing, and for those of you that are watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoy watching it.
Mr. Watts, as I indicated when we began, you have the right to make a statement if you choose to. Would you like to make a statement?
No, sir.
Thank you. So the court has considered the arguments made by the attorneys. The court has considered the statements made by the victims in this case. The court's going to find that the plea agreement is fair and reasonable under the circumstances. I want to acknowledge the Rusick family, as well as the Watts family, that showing mercy on Mr. Watts is understood. And I respect that decision to request that the district attorney not seek the death penalty in this case. And so the court is going to accept this plea bargain under the circumstances. Words that come to mind when I hear the evidence in this case are a senseless crime and the viciousness of the crime. And equally aggravating in this court's determination is the despicable act of disposing of the bodies in the manner in which they were done in this case. I've been a judicial officer now for starting my 17th year, and I could objectively say that this is perhaps the most inhumane and vicious crime that I have handled out of the thousands of cases that I have seen. And nothing less than a maximum sentence would be appropriate, and anything less than the maximum sentence would depreciate the seriousness of this offense. So the court is going to sentence Mr. Watts as follows. With regard to count number 1, murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts, the court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed, with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate, to run consecutive to the other charges, with an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7, as it relates to tampering with a deceased body, as well as counts 8 and 9, each a class 3 felony, the court is going to impose a maximum sentence of 12 years each for those counts, to run consecutively to the other counts. The court is going to order that the statutory fees be paid and court costs. The court's going to grant the prosecution 91 days to file a notice of restitution, and that will be the sentence of the court. We will shortly be in recess. I would respectfully ask the parties that you remain in your seat. There is a plan by the deputies on allowing people to exit the courtroom, so please remain seated until you are authorized to leave the courtroom based on the direction of the deputies. Deputies, I would respectfully ask that you take this defendant into custody and have him serve the rest of his life in the Department of Corrections. We are in recess.
I've got some things I want to say.
Okay,
So,
go.
for Shanann's murder,
Mhm.
first degree murder, he gets the maximum sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Yes.
So he is going to spend the rest of his life in prison with no chance of getting out.
Yeah, I think it, and they all need to run concurrently, which means that he ended up getting about 173 years.
Right. Hear me out.
Okay.
So for Shanann's murder, he's
Mhm.
punished to life in prison with no chance of getting out. He's sentenced to the rest of his life in prison, and that's it. That's it. There's no more. He's going to die in prison.
Yeah.
For the murders of his 2 girls and for the murder of his unborn child, he's essentially getting nothing, no further punishment, because he's already sentenced to a life in prison with no chance of getting out. So those other 3 sentences are irrelevant. They mean nothing to him because he's already spending his life in prison.
No, I do understand what you're saying, but I mean, as the law goes, what else are they able to do? Because
it's just pointless. Why
yeah, but
somebody...
a life sentence really only means like 25 years or something, doesn't it? So because life doesn't mean life, does it? It doesn't mean you'll spend the rest of your life. It is like 25 years is considered a life sentence, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, but he's got a sentence of 148 years or whatever it is. Because he got 48 years. So if he's got life in prison without the possibility of parole for Shanann's, but then he's got 48 years for Nico, life in prison surely means longer than 48 years. So he's going to be dead. Like, he's got a sentence of 148 years, say, for instance, or probably longer. He doesn't live that long. So it's just, what's the point? What is the point in sentencing somebody to past their lifetime in parole when it loses all credibility, because that doesn't mean anything? Having 148 years is like, oh, well, I'm only going to be alive for another 30 years or whatever.
No, but if we ran the judicial system, we'd be like, right, life in prison for taking a life. So you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. Then adding on to that, we're going to have your penis removed. And then adding on to that, you're going to be tortured.
That's what my brain was doing. My brain was going, right,
I'd like to do that. I would like to do that. I'd like to add on, as a result, you get no privileges in prison either. So you get exactly no visits. You get no television. You get
a single cell room, like 4 walls. You get no chance to decorate it. You get, I don't know, the basic rations. Like, you get absolutely nothing in prison, and that is more detrimental to him than an extra 48 years that he's never going to serve because he's going to be dead.
Yeah, I know.
I just feel like it's completely pointless. Like, those little girls got absolutely nothing. Like, he's that their sentencing was completely pointless to him because he was already sentenced to life in prison. Like, it was completely meaningless. So I feel like those girls got nothing.
I think that's probably how a lot of people feel. And I think certainly for child murderers in prison, I'm glad that it's been such a high profile case, because at some point,
but then they get
someone's
protected,
going to get
don't
to him.
they? But then they get extra privileges in prison because they're like rapists, pedophiles, things like that. They get these extra privileges in prison because they're a target.
Yeah.
But rightly so, they should be a target.
I know, but I do think there are prison officers that think that as well, and sometimes they're like, "Oopsie,
Oops,
I left the door open. Oh, a whole team of people got in. How did that happen?" Butterfingers. Yeah, exactly. I do. I like to believe that, and I think that's, you know, certainly for you and I, it's a nice way to think about Chris spending the next 173 years or whatever it is. I'd like to think that he's living, even if he spends the next 20 years in prison and dies from whatever, I would like to think that he's constantly looking over his shoulder and, you know, terrified that something could happen to him at any minute.
Yeah, I feel like he should never live a day without fear or worry.
Yeah, I know.
I never want him to laugh in prison. I want him to constantly be...
Well, I know when I was doing the research, I was like Googling something, and you know, when you get into a case and it becomes like your reality and you start taking on like these feelings of like proper grief and upset and, you know, things like that. And I looked at the computer and I thought it said, I sort of did a double take because I thought it had come up and it said Chris Watts murdered in jail. And I was like, oh, and I quickly looked, and then when I took a second look, it didn't. It said Chris Watts murders in jail, blah, 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 blah. And I thought, oh, and it was like one of those moments where I thought I didn't know how I felt about it. At first I thought, oh, fucking good.
No.
I'm glad he got shivved in prison, and, you know, I hope it was really fucking painful, and, you know, but then the other part of me thought, no,
too good.
Yeah, I
too
mean,
easy.
I think it's Shanann's mother that says, I hope you go on to live a really long life.
Yeah, it's the same as the Matthew Shepherd ones, when they want the parents of Matthew Shepherd wanted the death penalty taken off the table because they wanted those boys to live with the rest of their life knowing what they'd done.
Yeah,
but it should be, you know, if you're the sort of person that wants to stab somebody else in prison, you know, that I don't condone it, but if you want to one day perhaps take off a foot, you know, don't stab him to kill him, but just take off a foot. And then maybe once that's healed and he's just like, oh gosh, you know, that was awful, just take off a fucking arm. And then like, do you know what I mean? I feel like,
no, I do know what you mean.
No punishment that is
gonna get in trouble.
Is that, can I not say that?
I don't know, I'll leave it in anyway.
Take off a finger.
I know I can
he
only
should have
say...
no privileges. He should absolutely suffer for the rest of his life. And when people go to prison, I don't think that's suffering. I understand, you know, if you've committed a burglary or something like that, and they go into prison, you can reform yourself, and you know it's rubbish in prison. Obviously, you lose your privileges and whatnot. But for the murder of, you know, 2 children, for the murder of your unborn child, and for the murder of his entire family for no reason, really. Not that would make it any better. Prison just isn't the right place for them.
It's not prison-y enough, is it?
No, it's not prison. It's not prison-y enough.
I know.
No.
I feel the same. I think prison should be prison, and people like that should suffer.
Yeah. Prison,
But-
it should, you know, just tie him to a tree, leave him there, and then people can just come up every now and then, paper cut in the toe webbing.
Yeah.
I just feel like he
Vinegar
should,
on him.
yeah, suffer constantly. Like,
I know, but if we keep going with this, we're going to be someone else's episode in the future.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not a violent person. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter.
It's not coming across that way.
No, sorry, guys.
Take off his foot, rip off an arm. I'm not a violent person.
No. Do you know, take off an ear. Just don't stab him to kill him.
No.
He needs to suffer.
Oh, I'm sure that someone at some point will end up taking it out on him.
Yeah.
But, you know, not that we're condoning that, but yeah. So I'm going to end it there.
Okay.
Thank you all for listening. And I'm sorry that I enraged Sarah. It doesn't happen very often.
No, I don't normally get the rage, do I? I do apologise.
Oh.
A lot of that made me rage.
Yeah, same.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right. Well, all of you go and do something nice now. Take your mind off of it. And yeah, we love you all, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. We're all about getting feedback and getting other points of view. However, you need to
Don't
calm
be a
your
dick
asses.
about it.
Yeah, calm your ass down about it.